Hi everybody, welcome to our 4 o'clock live. I am here with TJ Woodward. Hello.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here and
Me
grateful
too.
for this conversation.
Absolutely. I feel like I need to do a little song and dance with you here. We were just doing a little singing and saying we need to have a blooper reel and all that fun stuff. But yes, thank you so much for coming all the way out from LA. I know it's a long drive. It's great to have you. You guys, we were in for a treat. I really love you. I'm like a fan of yours.
Oh, thank you.
You don't know this, but I was very shy the first time meeting you just because you're very respected in the community. And for people that don't know what I mean by that, it's the addiction and mental health world, that community of professionals. And you just carry yourself in a very just passionate, loving, meaningful way. And after I met you and got to know you, like, I feel comfortable being around you, and you have this way about you that you feel like safe and warm and that you belong. So thank you for being you, and you're an amazing man.
Oh my gosh, you have no idea. That is probably the biggest compliment I could ever receive because of my past and what it took to get me to a place where that is true.
Yeah.
Right, where that's true, that I actually can be open and present and connect with people in ways that I never even thought was possible.
Recovery is amazing. But yes, you definitely put out that vibe. So for anyone that doesn't know you, if you could tell us about yourself and where you came from and how you came to be Conscious Recovery and TJ Woodward of the treatment industry.
Well, you know, the one thing that's been so present for me that I've been talking about a lot lately that I didn't talk about for a long time for whatever reason is, I think, the deepest reason that I really do this work and how important all of this is to me is that when I was somewhere between 18 months and 2 years sober, it's kind of blurry, but somewhere around that time I found myself wanting to die. And found myself as close to suicide as I've ever been. And this is 18 months to 2 years sober, right? And the paradigm, or what was around me, kind of the narrative was, don't worry about anything but not drinking. If you don't drink today, your life is a miracle. Just go help someone else. And that had worked really well for me for my first 18 months to 2 years of sobriety. But I was like, there's gotta be something more because I literally wanna die. And I met a woman who changed my life. Her name is Mary Helen, and I've dedicated my life's work to her. And the reason I'm starting with that story is that really is the foundation of my own life's purpose and also conscious recovery, helping people to actually heal the underlying root causes instead of just trying to find a way to stay alive, because that's really what I was doing at that point.
Absolutely. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I know there's so many people out there that are either feeling that or have been there, because we get sober. And so many of us have this notion that, yes, as long as you just stay sober today, everything's going to be fine. And it's not. It's not always fine. And we have so much to deal with. And we need to find ourselves, and we need to find happiness and all these things. And I had similar experiences, and I mean, they lasted off and on for the first 3, almost 4 years into my recovery, and it hasn't been until these last couple years where I've really been able to go, okay, I need something more. I need to tap in to myself and to truly discover who I am, to have like long-term happiness and peace. So I know a little bit about Conscious Recovery. How did Conscious Recovery start?
Well, I started working in the addiction treatment field in 2008, and I was just over 20 years sober at that time. So I had really been on my own journey, which had been filled with a lot of highs and a lot of lows in recovery. I'm one of those people that got sober young, 20 years old. So a lot of my growing actually was in recovery. And one way to say it is I didn't have like, oh yeah, I was drinking and using, that's why. I didn't have that sort of excuse. That's one thing. But what it afforded me, waiting till I was 20 years sober to start in the field, is that I did have this experience of how I could heal my past trauma and my shame, because really that's what was driving my life. So I started working in the field in 2008, and I had this experience of returning to my true nature through my work with Mary Helen and my own recovery. And when I started working in the field, one of the first things I noticed is how many times people were coming back to treatment, and how the clinicians and the counselors, very well-meaning, were just treating the symptoms and behaviors and helping people stabilize them, and then they were coming back to treatment. And so I became really curious of how we can actually help someone start to heal those underlying root causes, even on day one of treatment. So that's really why it was born. I mean, I can give you more detail of how it came to be, but that's really the why of it.
Okay, and Mary Helen.
Yeah.
She sounds like an amazing human being.
She is an amazing human being.
And you went and traveled with her. What was that experience like for you?
Well, first of all, I met her when I was, like I said, around 18 months to 2 years sober. I had seen her around, but I really connected with her around that time, and I felt so damaged. I believed I was broken, and she would say in her beautiful Southern accent, "Darling, you're so precious." And I would literally think I was gonna throw up, because I felt so damaged and broken. And so I went on this journey with her, including a journey to India and Thailand and Sri Lanka and all these amazing journeys. But the real journey with her was a journey back to myself. And she provided that. It's really where I discovered something that's fundamental to my work, and that is the way we really communicate is energetically. And she was this beautiful, open, what I would call an enlightened being. And she could see me as a whole and perfect being when I saw myself as broken and damaged. So it was through that I started to transform myself. And I started thinking, if she sees me as a whole and perfect person, who am I to not believe that?
It's so amazing to me when I think about divine intervention and people that come into our lives.
Yeah.
You know, and how one person can be so influential and just give us something that we need, you know, and we never know if we're going to be that somebody for someone, and to always remember we might be, and to plant those seeds and be kind and be helpful, you know, and share our wisdom. How did you meet her?
I met her through 12-step meetings. She was 20 years sober at the time, and she was just this incredible being. And I felt so intimidated by her. It's so interesting that you were saying that, because I felt full circle, because I thought, gosh, she's this incredible person, and she is and was, and she died in 1998. And she lives on, right, in so many people's lives. I mean, I'm just one of the people that she touched, and she had a gift for working with people one-on-one, and so I would sit with her for hours and hours. And really go back and look at what happened, the decisions I made about myself, my past traumas. And she would no more do a show like this or get up and speak. No way was that hers to do. And right before she died, one of the last things she said to me is, you know, you are very extroverted, and I know that you are going to use that to take this message to a much larger audience. And I felt like that was her telling me, really, take this and take it to take it to the world in a different way. And you have. And so you met her in 12 steps. So I love how when we had talked before that you said this is not a replacement for 12 steps. Right. So you did 12 step. Yeah. It helped, right? Like so many of us. And this was an added bonus to it, right? So people can still do a 12-step program and do conscious recovery as well. Yes. What do you think this spiritual way of life, what is the biggest thing that it has given you in a positive way in your life? What has it done for you? Well, the biggest thing that it allowed me to do, and my hope that conscious recovery is providing for people, is that return to their own wholeness. I thought I was broken. I thought I was damaged. I thought I was hopeless. I had so many beliefs. I am unlovable. I'm unworthy. I am stupid. I had all of that was really running my life. And in working with clients, 100% of the clients I worked with had that as well. So the number one thing that spirituality has given me, and for some they wouldn't use that word, but for me it's that we already are whole and perfect. We came in as that. And that was the greatest gift Mary Helen gave me, that recovery isn't about trying to get somewhere, but really returning. What needs to be unlearned so that I can remember who and what I truly be. I know that's not grammatically correct, but who I really am is an infinite being. And for me, I call that spiritual. Returning back to that innocent part of us that is whole, that is loved, that is good. Yes. Because so many of us feel broken,
We feel that we've been through these experiences and we're used, or whatever we might tell ourselves, and being able to find that. So conscious recovery offers that to you, right? That you're able to get back to that sense of self.
Yeah, starting with the core principle is that underneath all addictive behavior is an essential self that's whole and perfect. That's huge for some people, because in some circles, they're being told they're broken. They're being told there's something wrong with them. Certainly, their behavior, my client's behavior that I've worked with doesn't look perfect, right? Because all kinds of harmful things. And what I have discovered is, as we all know, hurt people hurt people. The great news too is healed people heal people, right?
So true.
And so the core principle, the first step with conscious recovery, is really a recognition that we came in as whole and perfect, and then we were programmed to believe that we were limited or damaged or something's fundamentally wrong with us. So what needs to be unlearned so that we can return to that place of wholeness? And that really is the journey that's conscious recovery.
Absolutely. And so for you and your relationships, I'm sure it's benefited you in many ways. In your personal relationship, is it okay if I speak on that?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Your husband, right?
Yes.
Is he in recovery?
He's in recovery.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he's not a good example then. Let's say somebody is in a relationship with somebody that's not in recovery. Would this curriculum, them learning conscious recovery, still be able to help and benefit them? Because I always say, I'm getting somewhere with this, that like 12 step, doing the steps, I'm like, whether you're in recovery or not, you do these 12 steps, it is going to help you in your life.
Yes.
So let's say someone, whether it's their partner or their friend, would it benefit them if they were curious about it to do it? And can they do it?
It's really interesting because I don't know if you know this, but my third book just came out, Conscious Creation. And one way I frame it is it's conscious recovery for everyone.
Okay, there you go.
Right, because a lot of people said, well, I'm not in recovery, I don't have addiction, which first of all, I think if we're on planet Earth, we have some kind of addiction.
Yes,
right?
we do, everybody. You got something.
Because if we're looking for someone or something outside of ourselves to try to fix or heal something that feels broken within, that can easily become addictive. So the short answer is Conscious Creation really is a book and a workbook and an online course for people who aren't necessarily in recovery or have an addiction, but do want to go through this process of unlearning and discovering what the core false beliefs are that keep them feeling stuck, how to return to their own infinite beingness.
Okay, good. So it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. So for you in your own personal life, tell us what you do in your life. Okay, so not the spiritual stuff that you do with conscious recovery, but what do you do for your own personal needs, self-care, finding that balance in your life? Because I'm sure you're really busy with this, and people say don't make that your recovery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when I went to school and started working in this field, they're like, don't make that your recovery. There has to be something else too. So what do you do? What does TJ do?
So it's really interesting because when I do conscious recovery trainings, one of the things we talk a lot about is burnout and self-care. And I have a little different take on it.
Okay.
And that take is when I'm connected with my true nature, I have boundless energy. And I can actually be energized by this conversation, by sitting in traffic, by doing the work. Whatever it is, I can be energized by that rather than depleted. So the short answer to what I do is dedicate myself to really having a deep connection with my true nature, meditation, mindfulness. But it really is a moment-to-moment practice of being here now. And even though that might sound overly simplistic or maybe in some way not very tangible, it's actually profoundly simple. When I can be here with you right now, I'm not feeling burnt out, I'm feeling energized. So the number one thing I do is dedicate myself to knowing who I truly am, not my personality, but my spiritual beingness.
It's a great answer. I'm definitely going to think about that because it's so true. You know, yes, absolutely. Finding what you're really passionate about and acting from your true self, then it doesn't become work.
It's not work.
It's not work. So what would you suggest? What would your advice be to someone that's trying to find their passion? If they're trying to find, they're new in recovery and they don't know what they like, they don't know what to do. How do they start working on that?
For me, purpose is really what is energizing. Most of us have been taught, myself included, I was taught that purpose was an activity, right? It was a role I played, whether that be a good parent or a good spouse or a good boss, whatever that is, it was an activity. What if it's a quality, right? Mm-hmm. What if our true purpose, and for me, the true purpose is love and connection. So when I focus on that, and when I remember that's my purpose, it's not an activity, it's more of a way of being, then true connection can happen. And like you said, when I'm vibrating in that frequency of purpose, it's like life is infinite. I have infinite energy. One of the things that, and this is really out of my book, Conscious Creation, we dedicate ourselves to listening intently to the inner knowing and receive messages from that on who we've come here to be. And when I listen to that, I have everything that I need to actually manifest that or to fulfill that vision. But when I'm trying to create it out of my mind, even as much work as I have done in therapy and as much work as I've done with trying to change the narrative, if it's a thought, it's limited in some way. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter what the thought is, there's a limitation in some way. So really it's about being quiet enough to listen. I, for example, did not want to write a book about recovery. I'm like, no, I don't want to be the recovery guy. I had my other path. That's not who I am, mm-hmm. right? But it just, I kept listening and it kept coming through. And eventually I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And now look what came of that, right? Mm-hmm. And all of it's opened up because I said yes to this deeper knowing, not my small plan, which would have totally limited me.
Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of people that are new in recovery have a hard time meditating, clearing their mind, being able to listen, to their voice. How do you start to slow down? What are some easy steps that can then take you deeper?
So this is not mine. I heard this somewhere. The goal of meditation or the intention of meditation isn't to quiet the mind. It's to observe the mind. And when I heard that, everything changed for me because I said, well, I can't meditate because I can't get my mind to be quiet. So I would sit down and meditate and I would say, stop talking, be quiet, be still. And then there was this narrative. Mm-hmm. And when I heard someone say, asking the mind to stop thinking is like asking the lungs to stop breathing or the heart to stop pumping blood. It's what it does. Curiosity is the way we meditate. So if I dedicate, even if it's 5 minutes, if I set the timer for 5 minutes and I sit and I say, I'm just going to notice my thoughts for the next 5 minutes.
Notice your thoughts. I love that. Yeah. Just notice your thoughts.
Notice them. Isn't that interesting? That was something that I started using. Isn't it interesting that I'm thinking that? And isn't it interesting that I'm feeling that? And so then meditation became an opportunity to notice what was happening in my body and my thoughts and my emotions. And then just to start to observe them. And then there was some space that was created. And then the greatest paradox was, my mind did quiet down in a way, mm-hmm. but not when I was trying to get it to quiet down.
Right. I love that. Yeah. Okay. With teaching this, with going into treatment centers, teaching conscious recovery, working with people, what has it taught you the most about yourself by spreading this to everybody?
I think the number one thing that it's taught me about myself on a deep level is that everything that happened in my past, all of the pain that has happened, has been useful. And in a little bit more tangible way, what I get most from going in and doing a training is watching a counselor, a clinician, a tech, a nurse, an admissions person, when they have that moment where they say, oh my gosh, my job isn't to fix someone because they're not broken. My job is to be a presence for someone. My job is to be curious. The answers are within. And when someone has that moment, and a lot of times it's tears. I remember I went in, early on when I went in and did a training, one of the counselors he started crying and he said, I've been doing it backwards the whole time. I've been thinking my job was to try to save them or fix them or tell them what they need to do. And then now you're telling me, and I feel it very deeply, they have the answers. I'm here to be curious with them. I'm here to see what they're capable of, even if they don't know it. And so when those moments happen, I find myself feeling a rush of emotion and also feeling really energized and grateful.
Yeah, I can imagine it being that way, because I feel that way just talking to you, because, you know, I'm sure a lot of them think, oh, you're coming in to teach them how to teach the clients, right?
Right.
But you're actually helping them, and they're going through this process, and we don't know everything. And it's tough because we can get caught up in our roles, and really be working harder than the client, you know, and taking on a lot of baggage and not recentering ourselves. And, you know, there's some, I'm not going to name them off, but there's some, you know, these retreats that treatment professionals will go and do, and they'll go for a week or two, and they'll go through this process. But it sounds like they can get this process from going through your process with conscious recovery, just by working with the clients and doing it as well. So
that's right.
It's amazing that the clients get it and the staff gets it, and I think everybody should get it, you know?
And it really is more for the counselor or the clinician. It really is, when I understood, I'll put it this way, when I understood the number one thing I can do for my client is to do my own healing.
Yes.
Then that became a different paradigm, right? Because it's not that I have to say the right thing or do the right thing. It's that I have to heal, be in the process of healing my own perspective. And, you know, quantum mechanics is now showing us that the observer has a profound effect. So if I think you're broken or damaged, or if I'm with you and you're talking and I'm trying to diagnose you, oh, maybe it's borderline personality. Oh, maybe if I'm in that process, I'm missing the richness of the moment. Who are you really? And something profound happens in the energetic field when we're truly present with someone. And that's the power that happens working with clients. And when I go in and do a training, when the clinicians experience that, because I always start the training with, if you have your notepad and your pen, please put it down. That's not what we're doing today. And some of them get a little like, uh-oh, what's this gonna be? It really is about presence.
It is, and it is in life in general, you know, and we don't realize that we do that. We meet somebody, and we're thinking all these different judgments and questions and ideas, and it's not us being malicious or anything like that, but we sit in that space, and we're always thinking of what we're going to say and how this person is, you know, how we feel they're projecting, so many things.
So many layers.
Instead of just sitting and being present and truly listening and allowing that space to connect and have that energy between you know, so I love everything you're doing.
Thank you. And the question that I have for people is, what does it require for me to be truly present? And that can take a lifetime, and it can happen in an instant, right? It can take a lifetime, because when I was learning to consciously listen, in air quotes, I knew I was supposed to look at you and nod, but I was responding in my mind.
Exactly.
And people feel that, right?
Yeah.
There's a quality to true presence, and maybe that's the gift Mary Helen gave me.
You have that gift, yes.
Oh.
And I think that's why, you know, for me, I could feel that, you know what I mean? Because when someone's truly just present and listening, you feel it, you know, and so it's true and it works, and all of us can benefit from that, absolutely. So Conscious Recovery, please tell us all where we can get it, how can we get our hands on it, how can a treatment center get their hands on it?
ConsciousRecovery.com is the best place, and you can go there if you have a sober living or a treatment program. If you're an individual clinician in private practice, there's a training. Also, if you're an individual in recovery, you can go to ConsciousRecovery.com. There's a book, there's a workbook. We now have it for teens and eating disorders. We have it for mental health and for addiction. So we're just expanding. I collaborate with different people to bring this this teaching or this way of being to as many people as possible.
I love it. You are a result of following your heart and your passion and showing what it can do. You know, like you were saying about your purpose and your passion. And if you just lead and do it with the right intentions, it manifests into this. And like you said, this wasn't your plan, but look at where it's got you. And it just goes to show anybody out there that's struggling or think they have an idea and doubting themselves, if you do it for the right reasons, it will come.
Always.
It will always come. And I
Yeah.
see that in every aspect of my life, just like us sitting here right now.
Yeah.
Like it blows my mind when I really think about it. You know, we're here because of everything we've done right, you know, driven by our heart to bring us to this moment.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. So thank you for being here. Thank you for taking your time today to share with us and to help us be more present and to
Wow.
help us tune into who we are. And you've helped me just by talking to you the few times.
Oh.
You know, not having that talk in my head and trying to slow down and be present and listen. So thank you.
I'm deeply honored. There's nothing that I love more than being in these conversations. So thank you for the opportunity.
You're welcome. Thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful weekend. We will see you next Friday. Bye.